Hi, it's Hans at ahappierman.com. Today's topic is use your past to rebuild your future. I'm just coming back from going home from a really nice weekend, really a nice event that I attended, and was up visiting a really good friend and meeting new friends and some other acquaintances that I know, and had a great time in it. And as I'm driving home, I got a couple hours to get home, and I like sometimes on a morning like this, a Sunday morning coming down, I like to reflect on the past, my past, and kind of it helps me to move myself into the future in a better way. Instead of just zoning out or mindlessly listening to the radio or the talk radio, which is even worse, I like to think about my life and why it got to the way it is. How did I become happier? Why was I frustrated with certain things in my past? And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is to using my past to help rebuild my future. So I reflect back on things in my past that weren't ideal and try to figure out, well, what happened? Why did things turn out that way? Why was I frustrated? Why was I angry? Why was I sad? Why did it turn into a mess, right? So, and I think if you do this and you kind of make it a practice to regularly reflect on your past, not with the critical of why did I do that, it's more, instead of complaining and criticizing and wishing it didn't happen that way, it's more understanding of where you came from, understanding why things developed that way. And perhaps there's an opportunity for you to forgive some of the wrongs that were done against you. I don't think you have to go to the lengths of going to forgive someone in person, just in your mind. And certainly there may be times where you just can't, if it was so terrible, but maybe there's a certain amount of, I guess I understand why that happened that way. I'm glad that's over. I've moved on, and but then you can use that knowledge to help you in the future and help you sidestep future problems. Maybe there's a certain personality of people that that you should avoid, so you don't get yourself in these situations. There's certain circumstances that are not good for you, and you should look to avoid them. And if you reflect on your past and say, yeah, that's why I got into such a mess, to me, if you do that, your future has no choice but to get better, because you're moving away from whatever kind of mistakes you may have made, whatever kind of misjudgments you had made in the past. You've learned from them. And I think this is critical, is to learn from your mistakes and to reflect back on the stories you've heard from other people. And by analyzing, observing other people and hearing their stories, you can make some of their past mistakes or successes part of your path forward. You don't have to always just learn from your own mistakes and successes. You can learn from others. What did they do in the circumstances? How would their thought process have went? And how did they get to this point where, man, that looks pretty good. I wouldn't mind getting a little bit of that in my life. And that, to me, it's a lot of fun, for one thing. It's a lot more fun than listening to somebody complain on the talk radio. It's a lot more fun than even listening to music and having too many commercials in a row while you're trying to enjoy some music. It's safer, I think, instead of fumbling with things. You're trying to get your own music on your phone and all of that while you're driving. It's your own life. It's like your own little mini history lesson of your life, and it does help your memory enormously the more you think about your own life. You lived it. You should know what happened and why it happened and how it happened, and then further by inserting some what if I had done this instead of that, how might of my life have turned out. And you can track this, you can track this out in your mind, and it's like you're writing your own little book, and it's a lot of fun, and it does make the drives very, very enjoyable because you're reflecting on your own history, and it's like somebody with you should like the sound of your own voice in your head talking about it, kind of like the great person, like a great person with a very nice voice reading a great novel, and you're just absorbed in it. And I find myself getting absorbed in my own thinking about my own history, and I don't go overboard with talking to other people about my history because it's mostly interesting to me, but I do bring it out from time to time in the right circumstances, and having a good memory, thinking about your own history is a lot of fun. And like I said there, I have spent quite a bit of time even at home thinking about various inflection points in my past where I made a major decision, and I think I've written these down even I made this huge decision. It propelled my life and pushed my life in one direction, and then ultimately that decision ended in a poor situation. So if I think about, if I would have made a different decision, how might my life have turned out? And I find that kind of fun. So that's the kind of thing you probably got to do at home. You got to write down, kind of this major decision and the year in which it happened, and a little bit about what was going on in your life at that time. And then when you have the chance on your longer drives, you can just reflect on that and think, if I would have done A instead of B, I think I would be here. And that's a critical element to making your future better, because you use that decision-making process in the past to refine how you make decisions in the future. So I've done this. I've got these half dozen or so inflection points, and I got them fleshed out, and it turns out that if I would have made the opposite decisions of what I did then, I would be right here where I'm at, only I might have gotten here earlier and be even happier because of the earliness of it. So I think I was doing that all this time, right? I made a decision, I ran with it. Eventually I might have had to correct the decision, and eventually what I did, all those decisions that I made that turned out to be misguided, I've corrected. And this will happen to you if you spend enough time with yourself and a pad and a pen and physically write down your inflection points. And then when you have time, like especially on a long drive, just think about those inflection points, play them out in your mind. If you would have said, if I would have said no to that, what might have happened, and where would have I ended up? So give that idea some thought. All for now.